Sora found himself standing in that place once again. He looked down at his hands, the familiar feeling of strangeness washing over him as curiosity filled his gaze. The air felt heavy, melancholic, almost otherworldly. All around him stretched a floating island adrift in thick, rolling smoke. The island hung suspended in the gray, suffocating sky like some forgotten remnant of another world. Crumbling Western-style buildings rose like decayed monuments, their walls cracked and windows long shattered. It was as if no life had ever existed here at all, a place lost to time and memory. And then, amidst the haze and the ruins, a figure appeared, a towering man, his presence striking, with broad shoulders and long, pointed ears resembling those of an elf. His expression was unreadable, but his voice rang clear and commanding through the silence. "Come, boy," the man called out, his voice both ominous and strangely familiar. "I shall wait for you at the edge of the abyss." A radiant light shone from his eyes, piercing the murky air like twin beacons. Sora tried to move toward him, but before he could take a step, the scene dissolved. Sora woke up with a start, sweat clinging to his skin, his breath ragged. His heart pounded against his ribs as the remnants of the dream clung stubbornly to his mind. "That weird dream again," he muttered to himself, wiping the perspiration from his face. A voice called out from the other room. "Sora, we'll be late!" his father shouted. "I'm coming!" Sora called back, forcing himself to sit up. In the shower, the image of the mysterious man lingered in his mind. The abyss. It was so vivid, so real. Why did it feel like he knew that man? Why did his presence seem to stir something deep within him? The questions hung unanswered as the water streamed over him. As he brushed his teeth, Sora tried to laugh it off. "Maybe I've just been studying too much lately," he told his reflection, though a gnawing unease remained. Stepping out into the small, cluttered apartment, Sora was greeted by his father, who patted his head fondly. "Overslept again, huh? Don't treat me like a kid, Dad. I'm already 15, Sora grumbled, ducking away from his father's hand. "So what?" his father teased, flexing a brawny arm. "Look at this strong, muscular body of mine." "I'm not looking," Sora scoffed, turning away in mock disgust. "If we didn't live in such a tiny apartment, I wouldn't have to see you naked every day." His father laughed heartily. "Well then, when your old man gets rich, I'll buy us a big house. You and Riku can have your own rooms too." "You've been saying that for 5 years now," Sora replied with a sigh. "Life's gotten a lot easier since Riku joined the self-defense force," his father added, his tone softening. "Is that so?" Sora murmured, his thoughts drifting to his older brother. It had already been 3 years since Riku enlisted in the self-defense forces. Sora had made up his mind to follow in his brother's footsteps one day. He thought about how it would be time to say goodbye to this small, lively life. To his dad, who always joked around and sometimes felt unreliable, and to his mom, who could be strict but loved them all more than anyone. It was comforting to have them there, if only this ordinary life could go on forever. They gathered around the small breakfast table, plates of simple food laid out before them, and then, without warning, the ground trembled. The walls shuddered, plates clattering as a low, ominous rumble filled the air. But deep down, Sora had always known this peaceful life wouldn't last forever. What he hadn't expected was for it to end like this. Outside, towering above the city, an enormous, ominous structure appeared. A giant tower rising impossibly high, blotting out the sky. "You've got to be kidding me," Sora whispered in horror as he stared up at the monstrous structure, dread knotting in his stomach. He hadn't known then, but the appearance of that tower would go on to change the history of mankind forever. What he did know in that moment, though, was that this tower, it was connected to his dreams. In his mind, Sora recalled the last words his brother had spoken to him in a weak, reassuring voice. "It's all right. I'll just have to follow the self-defense force's instructions, and then I can come home soon. I promise." That night marked the last time Sora had any contact with his brother. The news kept insisting there would be no problems as long as people stayed inside their homes. But soon, the broadcast stopped altogether. The same emergency message repeated endlessly on the radio, like a recording on loop. Then came the order to evacuate. His mother left a hurriedly scribbled letter for Riku on the kitchen table before she and Sora made their way to the evacuation shelter. As they moved through the eerily silent streets, they saw things that seemed to hint at the horrors creeping ever closer. Military vehicles rumbled by, soldiers perched grimly atop them, their faces etched with despair. Some of the vehicles bore deep, terrible claw marks, and a putrid stench of rot hung thick in the air. Sora's stomach turned. What in the world is happening to this place? He wondered. The temporary evacuation shelter had been set up in the town's old gymnasium. It was packed wall to wall with refugees, yet a heavy silence hung in the air. No one spoke. It was as if everyone was quietly awaiting their death. "Sora, come over here quickly," his mother called, motioning to him. "Okay," he replied, hurrying to her side. Even amidst the fear and despair, trouble found a way to rear its head. A man named Eiji Kagawa, tall, wiry, with a cruel glint in his eyes, snatched a piece of bread from a small, trembling boy. "How dare you steal my bread?" Eiji spat, glaring down at the terrified child. I didn't steal it," the kid stammered, tears brimming in his eyes. "Everyone was given one piece. You probably ate yours already." Unfazed, Eiji struck the boy and sneered, savoring the power he held over someone weaker. "See? I'm still hungry. It's fine if I take this, right?" he jeered. The boy, now sobbing, nodded helplessly. "Yes." "All right then," Eiji grinned. "Until this situation ends, your bread's mine. It'll only be a few days anyway. It's not like you'll die." The kid continued to cry, and yet the roomful of people remained still, too afraid or indifferent to intervene. Then, a voice cut through the tension. "Hey you!" Sora's father stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Why are you doing this when you know what kind of situation we're in?" Eiji smirked. "Worry about yourself, old-timer." "Give the kid his bread back," Sora's father demanded. Eiji's grin twisted into a snarl. "Shut the up," he growled, throwing a punch. But Sora's father was faster, catching Eiji off guard and knocking him to the ground. Without another word, he picked up the bread and handed it back to the boy. "Thank you," the boy whispered, clutching it to his chest. Eiji lay there, seething. Bastard," he spat. "I'll remember this." "Dad," Sora called out, worried. His father waved it off. "Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on that guy." Sora's heart burned with hatred. Even in death, he thought, "I won't forget that man, Eiji Kagawa. He was scum who took pleasure in bullying me." Suddenly, a soldier burst into the gymnasium, shouting an emergency message. "Everyone must exit the evacuation shelter through the back and get into the trucks immediately." "Why? What's going on?" a man demanded. I'm sorry, it's confidential. I can't say," the soldier stammered. "You can't say?" the man roared. "First, people aren't allowed to leave their homes for 2 days straight, then you pack us into this place, and you still won't tell us anything? What the hell are we even paying taxes for?" The soldier's face turned pale with panic. "They're here!" he screamed. "Run quickly!" "They?" the man started to ask, but before he could finish, horror descended. "Mom! Dad! Hurry! Run!" Sora shouted, his heart pounding. A terrible feeling gripped him, one he couldn't shake. The soldier, clutching the gymnasium doors, strained to hold them shut. "I can't hold them any longer. Hurry! Get to the vehicles!" And then, those monstrous things, hungry for blood and destruction, burst through, their nightmarish forms flooding the shelter. Sora's mind reeled. What in the world is happening? The situation had spiraled into chaos. The evacuation trucks were jam-packed with people, their frightened voices blending into a suffocating chorus of panic. Sora stood beside his mother and father, heart pounding as the soldiers yelled for everyone to hurry. It was clear there was no room for more people. Sora could see it, feel the hopeless weight of it pressing down on them. He turned urgently to his parents, his voice shaking but resolute. "This can't hold any more people," he told them firmly. "You two get on the truck first." He pushed his mother and father toward the truck, trying to make sure they got inside. His father, despite the commotion, reached back and grabbed Sora's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. The grip was desperate, a bond forged from blood and years of love, but the people behind them were impatient and frightened, shoving and yelling at his father to let go. "Don't bother with him," one man shouted angrily. "The truck's full, old man. If you're gonna dawdle around, get off yourself." The words stung, but Sora understood. He saw the pleading in his father's eyes, felt the warmth of his palm, and then, making a painful decision in an instant, Sora yanked his hand away. "I'll get on a different truck," he called out as he bolted into the crowd. His mother's voice pierced the noise. "Sora!" she cried, but he didn't turn back. Sora sprinted through the mass of desperate refugees, weaving between bodies, searching for an open truck. Each one he reached was already filled to capacity. The soldiers motioned him away. Fear surged through him. Was he going to be left behind? Was this how it ended? And then, there it was, a truck with just enough space for one more person. He rushed toward it, hope igniting in his chest, and stretched out a hand. A man reached down from the truck bed, gripping his wrist to pull him up. Sora's breath hitched in his throat as their eyes met. The man's face twisted into a cruel smirk. "No way! Eiji Kagawa!" Sora's mind screamed. Out of all people, it had to be him. Eiji Kagawa, the same scum who took pleasure in bullying him at the shelter, the same bastard who stole bread from a crying child. Sora's stomach turned at the sight of that smug face. And before he could react, Eiji's grip loosened. In one heartless motion, Eiji pushed Sora off the truck. Sora's world spun as he tumbled backward, hitting the hard ground with a bone-jarring thud. Dust and debris filled the air around him. "It's over," Sora thought as he lay there, the coldness of despair seeping in. I don't want to die yet." He curled into himself, trembling as the screams and monstrous roars echoed closer. Tears pricked his eyes as he begged for help, for someone, anyone, to pull him up, to save him from this nightmare. And then he saw it, a shadow. A tall, imposing figure stood just beyond the swirling dust, his form faintly glowing. Recognition struck like lightning. "The man from my dreams." Sora's heart pounded. He recalled the haunting words from those strange visions. "I shall be waiting for you, at the edge of the abyss." Was that a dream just now? Sora murmured weakly. "Where the hell am I?" The monstrous things advanced toward him, their grotesque forms now visible in the smoky haze. Their massive, twisted bodies radiated an aura of death, and they moved with a terrifying hunger. Sora forced himself to his feet and ran, panic driving him forward. He called out for his mother and father, but his voice was lost in the chaos. He was alone. "Am I dead already? Is this hell?" His mind raced, every step heavy with dread. One of the monsters hurled something huge in his direction, a shattered piece of debris or a corpse, he couldn't tell. He dodged by instinct, heart pounding as the thing crashed behind him. "Damn monster! Why won't you stop coming after me?" he cursed, his voice breaking. Fear threatened to consume him, but so did rage. One of the creatures closed in, its skin mottled and diseased, wielding a massive, rusted axe. Sora darted aside, grabbing whatever he could to defend himself. The monster swung its weapon down, the force of it cracking the earth. Driven by sheer survival, Sora struck back, over and over, until finally the creature fell. Blood splattered the ground as its grotesque body collapsed. Panting, Sora stepped closer, surveying the thing's corpse. Up close, it looked like something out of a horror game, muscles bulging, its face a grotesque parody of humanity. A strange black text shimmered on its chest. "A rank?" Sora muttered, frowning. "Is this like some kind of game?" And then it happened. A dark mist began to rise from the monster's body. It swirled in the air and then, as though obeying some unseen command, shot into Sora's body. He gasped, doubling over as warmth spread through him. His wounds closed, and an odd sense of strength filled his limbs. "My wounds, they healed," Sora marveled, clenching his fists. "I feel stronger." Realization struck. So if I beat enemies, I can level up, like in a game? He looked around the ruined cityscape, wondering how many more of those things were lurking nearby. "I'd better scout the area so I don't get jumped," he decided. He did a full lap around what he now knew was a floating island. But aside from the monster he'd killed, there were no others in sight. There weren't any other paths either. The island was cut off, surrounded by swirling smoke and the void beyond. There was only one option: floating stairs. They appeared ahead of him, barely visible through the smoke, an eerie staircase suspended in the air, leading up and away from the island. Floating stairs around Smoke Sky Island. "This looks bad," Sora murmured. He knew enough about games and stories to realize what terrain like this meant. In games, places like this are prime monster territory. In a game, I'd just respawn if I fell. But I'm not going to test whether or not this is a game world. Grimacing, he stepped onto the stairs, each one feeling insubstantial beneath his weight, yet holding firm. He moved carefully, refusing to look down. The climb was nerve-wracking. At last, the stairs ended, depositing him at the mouth of a dark hallway. It was narrow, the air thick and heavy, the walls stained and cracked. A chilling silence hung there, so oppressive it felt alive. Sora peered inside, his stomach twisting. "This place, it's creepy as hell," he whispered, but there was no turning back now. Sora stood at the entrance of the dimly lit hallway, staring at the strange, otherworldly characters engraved into the stone walls. Their shapes were unfamiliar, something he had never seen before in any language or script. Yet somehow, without any conscious effort, their meaning seeped effortlessly into his mind as though his brain were being rewired to understand them. The characters belonged to their bearers. By acquiring all of them, one shall earn the right to leave the abyss. His breath caught for a moment as the realization dawned on him. "So this is the abyss," Sora murmured to himself, his voice echoing faintly against the cold walls. His pulse quickened, not out of fear this time, but with a sense of strange, grim purpose. If I have to collect all the fragments to get out of here, then so be it. The thought of having a clear objective, however perilous, was oddly comforting in a place where everything else was alien and hostile. He clenched his fist and exhaled slowly. "All right then, I'm fully motivated now." Thinking back with a cooler head, Sora realized the monster he had encountered earlier, the one that had relentlessly chased him with a hammer axe, hadn't been as strong as it had felt in that moment of panic. It was doable. He could survive here, and if he was careful and strategic, he could get out. The first layer of the abyss had spanned an area of 900 square meters. He remembered the monster's corpse, how the black, ink-like number 1 had been carved into its chest. As he progressed further, he noticed a pattern. The second layer had doubled in size, stretching to 1,800 square meters. Among the creatures lurking there, one bore a 2 etched onto its body. When he reached the third layer, the area again doubled to 3,600 square meters. There, amidst the swarm, one of the 4 monsters he encountered carried a 3. The pattern became clear. These fragments, these numbered symbols carved onto monsters' bodies, were the keys to ascending through the abyss. The higher the number, the stronger and more dangerous the monster became. And what unsettled him more than the monsters themselves was how these numbered keys were growing increasingly scarce. The size of each layer kept doubling, the number of enemies multiplying, and yet the fragments seemed to vanish deeper into the chaos, becoming harder and harder to locate. What's worse, as Sora ascended higher, the monsters mutated, evolved, and diversified. No longer were they the same crude beasts with hammer axes. By the time he reached the 12th floor, he encountered monsters he recognized from the night of the attack. The very same abominations that had stormed the shelter, tearing apart everything in their path. But now, they were nothing to him. The Sora who had run in terror that day was gone. By then, his senses had begun to numb from constant battle. There were so many creatures now that counting them seemed ridiculous. But when he stepped onto the 30th floor, a staggering truth awaited him. The number of monsters there had reached 500 million. The scale was beyond human comprehension. Finding the key among them was like searching for a single needle in an endless, blood-soaked haystack. Some of these key-bearing monsters were hidden deep within narrow caves and labyrinthine passages. Others were fiercely protected by organized groups of monsters, forming defensive packs around them. What truly gnawed at Sora's patience wasn't the danger anymore, it was the sheer time it took. Hours, days, weeks. Time itself had lost meaning within the abyss, but the process of hunting down each key-bearing monster, one after another, felt infinite. But no matter how exhausted his body felt, no matter how thick the blood caked on his clothes, or how deep his wounds had been, he never stopped moving forward. And so it went on. In the year 2020, without warning or explanation, 20 enormous towers abruptly manifested across the world. They loomed impossibly tall, their summits disappearing into the clouds, constructed from alien materials no one could comprehend. Before humanity even had the chance to process what had happened, the unthinkable followed. From within these towers, terrifying monsters poured out in endless, merciless waves, their bloodlust unchecked. Humanity, caught entirely off guard, suffered devastating losses. Cities burned, streets became rivers of blood, and entire nations fell in a matter of days. That catastrophic day, the bloodiest in recorded history, was forever remembered as Judgment Day. But amid the overwhelming despair, a glimmer of hope surfaced. A handful of survivors awakened to strange, unfathomable powers, their bodies and minds altered by a mysterious phenomenon referred to simply as the system. Those who awakened were granted overwhelming strength and unique abilities, powers that allowed them to stand against the monstrous tide. Society, battered and near collapse, slowly began to rebuild itself around these survivors. The awakened formed groups known as hunter guilds, dedicated to combating the monstrous threat and reclaiming what was lost. Human civilization, though scarred, found a way to endure. Meanwhile, deep within the abyss, Sora continued his desperate, unending battle for survival. Bloodied and relentless, he suddenly caught sight of something unusual. A flicker of light ahead. His instincts screamed at him, and his narrowed eyes caught sight of a figure moving away from him. "Wait up!" Sora called out, his voice rough with exhaustion and determination. "Show me your stats!" But before he could get any closer, the figure acted swiftly, raising a shimmering parchment, an advanced transfer scroll. Sora's mind reeled. It was an incredibly rare artifact, capable of teleporting a person out of even the most dangerous zones. He barely had time to process it when one of the monsters nearby bellowed in unmistakable, coherent speech. "Stop him! Don't let that summon go through!" Sora froze. Human speech? His heart skipped a beat. "Don't tell me..." From within the column of light created by the teleportation scroll, a hand began to extend outward, slender, human, and unmistakably alive. The glowing portal shimmered violently around it. Sora's eyes widened. "Is that an exit?" Without a second thought, he lunged forward, his face almost plunging into the swirling light. What he saw confirmed it. Beyond that portal was the outside world. Blue skies, grass, air untouched by the stench of death. "There's actually an exit," he whispered in disbelief. But before he could throw himself through it, a crimson warning screen materialized before him. Warning: Abyssal summoning is unable to transfer more than 2 living beings. The words made Sora's blood boil. He clenched his teeth. "I won't let anyone get in my way." Meanwhile, on Earth, just outside one of the restored cities, a young girl was running desperately through the dense forest, the undergrowth whipping at her legs and branches clawing at her hair. Yu Sonozaki darted between trees, her breathing ragged, fear pounding in her chest. "I have to shake them off quickly," she thought, heart racing. But fate was cruel. Her foot snagged in a cluster of twisted roots, and with a sharp gasp, she tumbled to the ground, pain jolting through her ankle. She cursed under her breath. "This is bad. What a pain." Before she could recover, 2 figures emerged from the shadows, Aika and Choji Shido, both wearing the cold, confident smirks of seasoned hunters, closed in. "A level 60 scroll isn't something a level 19 rookie like you can handle," Aika sneered, her voice laced with venom. "Just hand over the advanced transfer scroll," Choji growled. "Hand it over now or I won't show any mercy." Aika cast a quick glance at him. "Don't kill her!" Sonozaki's eyes narrowed. Her voice trembled with anger, not fear. "Hunter-on-hunter combat is forbidden. You're breaking the rules." A third figure stepped into view, Shosei Toshida, his aura radiating cold arrogance. "Rules!" he scoffed, a wicked grin curling his lips. "I make the rules here. Give us the scroll, and I might let you keep all your limbs intact." But Sonozaki wasn't trembling anymore. Her fingers tightened around something hidden behind her back. Her gaze sharpened. "You wouldn't want to corner me any further if I were you." Aika's expression shifted to alarm. "This is bad. She's going to use a forced summon. Stop her now." "Bitch, hand over the scroll," Toshida barked, raising his hand. a surge of energy gathering in his palm. But it was too late. A complex teleportation circle flared to life beneath Sonozaki's feet, its arcane light washing over the clearing. "If I'm going to die anyway," Sonozaki hissed, voice defiant, "I'll drag you all down with me." Choji's face went pale. "It's a forced summon." Aika's voice cracked with panic. "No one can control an advanced monster that's dragged in like this. We're done for. Stop her now!" But Sonozaki had already begun chanting the final words, her resolve fierce. The summoning magic completed, and the surrounding air grew heavy with violent, oppressive power. Toshida took a step back, eyes wide. "What overwhelming energy! This isn't looking good for us!" Thunder cracked through the sky, lightning slashing jagged lines of light across the night. The clearing trembled as something monstrous tore through the summoned portal. The ground split apart, and a beast began to materialize. The first thing visible were its snarling 3 canine heads, unmistakably Cerberus, a level 3 advanced monster. "That's it?" Aika scoffed, relief in her voice. "For all that drama, she summoned a Cerberus? That's what she risked her life for? What a joke." But then, amidst their moment of stupidity and mockery, the true summoned figure stepped through. A humanoid figure, tall and bloodstained, eyes gleaming like cold blades. It was Sora. The moment his feet touched the ground, a crooked grin spread across his face. "I made it out," he murmured, then threw his head back and laughed, a sound that was half mad with relief and triumph. "I finally escaped that place. Ha 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 ha." The clearing fell deathly silent, the other hunters frozen in place. The monster they should have feared most wasn't the Cerberus. It was the man who had crawled out of the abyss. The eerie, guttural laughter echoed through the air, thick with the smell of blood and smoke. Toshida's entire body tensed, a cold sweat breaking out along his back as he clenched his fists in terror. Just hearing that laughter. "My body won't move. This pressure. What is this? Who the hell is that?" In front of them stood a man, tall, weathered, scarred beyond recognition, yet radiating an aura so dense it felt like the air itself was suffocating them. Sora's gaze locked onto Aika, his rough hands gripping her shoulders with alarming ease. His eyes scanned her face, bewildered yet desperate for an answer. "Is this the Earth?" Sora asked, his voice hoarse as if it hadn't been used in years. Aika, confused yet instinctively intimidated, managed a stiff nod. "Of course it is." For a moment, the tension in Sora's face eased, and a weak, almost incredulous smile appeared on his lips. "Finally, I've finally returned," he breathed out, his eyes glimmering in disbelief. He looked around, noticing the strange outfits the hunters wore, armed and clad in combat gear. With a raised brow and the hint of a laugh, he added, "What are you guys, cosplaying or something?" Toshida, leader of the Tiger's Roar Guild squad, gritted his teeth in anger. His pride flared at the mocking tone. "Don't you dare underestimate the Tiger's Roar Guild, you hobo bastard," he snarled. He barked out an order to his comrades. "Kill him." But as soon as they made a move, it happened. In the blink of an eye, Sora appeared before Toshida, his hand wrapping tightly around the man's neck, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Toshida's eyes bulged as he gasped for breath. "Show me your number," Sora growled, his grip tightening. Toshida coughed, struggling against the monstrous strength. Number? What the hell are you talking about? Gah!" With a roar filled with frustration and something ancient, Sora hurled him aside like discarded trash. Toshida hit the ground hard, dazed and trembling. "Get lost," Sora commanded, his voice like thunder. Fear overtook them. One after another, Toshida, Aika, and Choji turned tail and ran for their lives, shouting threats over their shoulders. "We'll remember this, bastard! You'll pay for this!" From the sidelines, Yu Sonozaki watched the scene unfold in awe and confusion. Such power, and those terrible scars. Just who is he, she thought. He couldn't possibly be a monster summoned from the abyss by my scroll. Could he? Sora turned towards her. "How many years has it been since the towers appeared?" he asked, his voice rough and detached. Yu blinked, startled by the question. "Huh? It's been 5 years." A dark shadow passed over Sora's face. 5 years, he murmured. He looked down at his tattered clothes and back at the devastated landscape. Is this really the Earth? And what's this about a scroll? Why the hell are you dressed like that? Yu sighed, gathering herself. Ever since the towers appeared, a system manifested itself to humans. A mysterious power we didn't understand. After Judgment Day, 5 years ago, monsters poured out, and a third of every city fell to ruin. The world's completely changed. A pang of grief and anger twisted in Sora's gut. Has the world truly changed so much in just 5 years, while I was trapped in that endless abyss? Yu continued. S-City was hit by the 7th large-scale invasion. I barely managed to flee from there. S-City, that's where I was born, Sora whispered, his chest tightening. Yu hesitated, but answered, It's already completely destroyed. But the Hunter Guild sent strong people there. They might still be able to push the monsters back. Sora clenched his fists. How do I get to S-City from here? Just go over there. Yu pointed to a path beyond the trees, toward the ruined horizon. Sora nodded silently, his mind set. Without another word, he took off in that direction. Yu watched his retreating figure, a strange feeling blooming in her chest. He's going alone? What kind of man is this? I need to tell my sister about this. Meanwhile, far from the scene, Toshida seethed. That bastard! But before he could finish his curse, a figure emerged from the shadows. Clad entirely in a dark cloth, only a faint glimmer of eyes visible beneath the hood. The air grew dense, suffocating, as the stranger's overwhelming presence pressed down upon them. I'll give you 3 seconds, the figure spoke coldly. Tell me where he is. Choji's face twisted. You've got to be kidding me. What now? Time was up. A flash of murderous energy exploded outwards. In the next instant, Choji, Aika, and Toshida's bodies were reduced to ash, not a single trace left behind. At the Tiger's Roar Guild headquarters, a young woman standing at the observation monitors paled as the signals of the 4 vanished. There's no sign of life from Master Toshida's party of 4, she reported shakily, and the whereabouts of Sonozaki and the scroll remain unknown. In the guild's command tower, Rich Mukai, the notorious storm priest, scowled, slamming his staff against the floor. What trash, he spat. The fools you recommended couldn't even handle one level 29 summoner? Pathetic. He glared at the trembling staffer. Their signals vanished at the same time. Find out who did it. Yes, sir. And capture Sonozaki, Mukai continued, his voice cold as ice. I want to hear everything from her own mouth. Understood. Mukai's eyes narrowed, bloodlust radiating from his form. I'll personally slaughter anyone who lays a hand on my men. Just then, a powerful gust of wind swept through the area. A figure streaked past Mukai with such speed that his robe fluttered. Mukai stiffened, sniffing the thick scent that lingered in the air. This incredible stench of blood, he murmured. Who was that? Isn't there a fallen zone in that direction? His expression darkened. This invasion, it's on a whole other scale. No doubt about it. Big forces are moving in secret. Sound the emergency alarm. All search parties fall back immediately. Somewhere in the depths of S-City's fallen zone, now a wasteland overrun with monsters and destruction, Sora walked alone, the ruined remains of buildings and corpses under his feet. He paused, gazing over the devastation. In the 5 years I was trapped in the abyss, he muttered to himself, his voice distant. This place has turned into hell. He touched the deep scars along his arms and face. But in that abyss, the weak man I once was died. I became strong, my senses numbed, my humanity stripped away. I nearly became a beast myself. I ate flesh to survive. He clenched his fists. But the thought of my family, dad, mom, brother, it kept me going. Sora's gaze hardened as he stared down a pack of monsters scuttling in the distance. The monsters I once feared, now they're nothing but small fries to me. And so, the man who returned from the abyss, marked by the horrors he'd endured, began his march toward S-City to reclaim what was lost. Once a lively, bustling metropolis, S-City now lay in utter ruin, reduced to nothing more than a vast, silent wasteland. The streets that used to echo with the chatter of children, the hum of cars, and the warmth of people going about their daily lives were now barren. Buildings stood as hollowed-out husks, shredded and battered like the remnants left behind by some apocalyptic earthquake. Every window shattered, every street cracked, every corner swallowed by dust and decay. But curiously, for all the desolation, there was no trace of fresh blood or fallen bodies, no monsters rampaging in sight. Ever since the authorities had evacuated the area during the last large-scale invasion, it had been declared a forbidden zone. Nobody was supposed to be alive here anymore. Through these ghostly streets, a lone figure moved with purpose. Sora, his once familiar face now hardened by years of torment in the abyss, made his way toward a broken structure, the skeletal remains of what was once his home. He reached out and pushed against the splintered door. The hinges groaned under the pressure as the door creaked open, revealing a room left in ruins. Dust hung heavy in the air, and every inch of space was cracked and crumbling. Sora stood silently, taking it all in. "I knew it would be empty," he murmured to himself, his voice raw with restrained emotion. "But I came anyway. After all, this place, it's full of memories." He stepped inside, his eyes darting to the spots where, years ago, he and his family would gather. The walls that once displayed family pictures were now bare and scorched, and yet amidst the wreckage, something on the table caught his eye. There, sitting beneath a thin film of dust, was a letter. The paper yellowed with time, but carefully placed. He reached for it, his trembling fingers brushing away the dirt. Unfolding it, he began to read. Dad's letter. "Dear Sora, everybody says you're dead, but your mom and I refuse to believe it. We grabbed your things and set them up exactly like in your old room. We're sure you're going to come back." Sora's throat tightened. He felt the sting of tears prick at his eyes. His gaze moved to the small pile of clothes laid neatly to the side. His parents had placed his favorite outfits, one set for each size, from small to large, as though they were waiting for every version of him to come home. They had thought of everything. In the drawer was a map to Shelter 6, carefully tucked away, along with a note written in his mother's delicate handwriting, urging him to promise that once he read it, he would come find them. They would be waiting, no matter how long it took. Overwhelmed, Sora clutched a worn, faded family photograph in his hand. His body shook as he cried harder than he had in years, the sobs tearing through him like sharp blades. "How strong am I now?" he whispered to himself, voice heavy with sorrow and determination. He picked up a knife, its blade dull but sufficient for what he intended. Holding a lock of his long, unkempt hair, he sliced it away, hacking off the strands in uneven clumps until his face was bare and fierce once more. The mirror reflected not a boy who had left 5 years ago, but a warrior forged by unimaginable pain. "If I'm tough enough to end this apocalypse, maybe I can reclaim the days I lost." Without another word, he stuffed the map into his pocket. The marked route pointed east to Shelter 6. He stepped out of the shattered house, the ground crunching underfoot. "The roads are a wreck, but blazing my own trail will be faster." Determined, he began clearing obstacles from his path, crumbling walls, fallen street signs, and rusted cars. His every movement was sharp, his strength unnervingly precise, slicing through debris like paper. Further ahead, 2 weary guards stood on a makeshift post. "You hear that?" one of them asked, turning his head. "You're probably drunk," the other replied with a snort. "Guard duty's boring enough without you imagining things." But a loud, unnatural boom echoed through the air, followed by flashes of lightning streaking across the dull gray sky. "Hey, did you see that just now?" the first guard muttered, his eyes wide. "I got it on the camera," the other said, peering at the fuzzy footage. Is that a person?" Somewhere beyond them, Sora was roaring high in the air, a primal, defiant scream against a world that had abandoned him. In a nearby alley, a terrified young girl cowered against a wall, her face streaked with dirt, tears glistening in her wide eyes. "Don't come any closer," she begged, voice cracking. "Please, forgive me. I only came here looking for food." A group of sneering thugs loomed over her, vile remnants of humanity that had turned to preying on the weak in the lawless wasteland. "Well, would you look at that?" one of them slurred, his eyes gleaming. "A survivor. Out here, all alone. Got quite the figure, too. Been a while since we've seen a woman." He licked his lips, tongue twisting grotesquely. "Don't worry, we're good guys. We'll take good care of you." "Please." "No," the girl whimpered, backing away. "Don't be scared," another laughed, unsheathing a knife. "I'll be gentle. Hell, it'd be a shame not to enjoy a body like yours." Suddenly, a voice broke through the darkness. "Some things never change, you pieces of trash." The bullies snapped around. "Who's there? You're not getting off easy if you butt in." "Get him," one ordered. "Die, brat." They rushed towards Sora, blades flashing, but he didn't flinch. In a blur, he moved, slicing through them with ease, their bodies dropping one by one like rag dolls. Blood darkened the cracked asphalt. Only one remained, eyes wide in horror. Who the hell are you?" "I'm part of the Tiger's Roar Guild. Try laying a hand on me and the guild won't let it slide." Sora narrowed his eyes as recognition struck him. You're Eiji Kagawa." The man paled. "What? No. Don't tell me, is that you, Mukujima? No way. Stay back. How the hell are you still alive?" Sora laughed darkly. "That's right." He grabbed Eiji by the neck, lifting him effortlessly into the air. The man clawed at his hand, legs kicking. "I crawled my way up from the pits of hell. All because of you." Sora's voice was a low, venomous snarl. His eyes blazed with fury, the rage of 5 years finally unleashed. "And now it's your turn to go there." The voices in his head, the remnants of the abyss, whispered to him, urging him onward. "Kill him! Kill him! You are the strongest now. Bend everything to your will." Sora clenched his fist tighter. "This is my power now." And the wasteland watched in silence. Sora stood in the wreckage of the desolate street, his breathing heavy, eyes locked on the crumpled form of Eiji Kagawa before him. Every memory of torment, humiliation, and agony this man had inflicted on him surged through his mind like a tidal wave. The taunts, the blows, the way his dignity had been stripped away, the helplessness of those years, all of it resurfaced, raw and vivid. "All you've ever done is torment my past itself," Sora growled through gritted teeth, his voice low and heavy with emotion. "The pain, the humiliation, the helplessness, and today, I'm giving it all back." Eiji Kagawa's face twisted in fear as he struggled to breathe, Sora's grip on his throat leaving him gasping and wheezing. His mind raced back to the countless times he had bullied Sora, how crushing someone's dignity to pieces had felt so exhilarating to him then. And now, those roles had reversed. The helplessness that once belonged to Sora was now his own. Sora's grip loosened, and he let Kagawa fall to the ground. The man collapsed, coughing violently, desperately trying to fill his lungs with air as he sprawled on the cracked concrete. Sora stood over him, a storm of conflicting emotions brewing inside him. A part of him craved revenge, to end this wretched man's life as he had once tried to end Sora's. But another part of him, the part clinging to what little humanity remained, held him back. "No," Sora muttered, clenching his fists at his sides. "I can't become the same as him." He looked down at the pitiful man at his feet. "But if scum like him keep breathing, more people will suffer, more lives will be destroyed." Kagawa lifted his bruised, tear-streaked face. What are you planning to do?" Sora's eyes hardened. "For the 2 years you made my life at school a living hell. 1 punch. For terrorizing the weak. 1 punch. And for trying to kill me by pushing me off that truck. 2 punches. 4 hits. And we'll call it even." Kagawa began to tremble, the color draining from his face. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Please, forgive me. If you punch me now with the strength you have, I'll probably die from the first hit." Tears streamed down his face as he begged for mercy, his words barely audible through his sobs. But Sora's expression remained cold, his voice calm and resolute. "Don't worry, I'll go easy on you." Without another word, Sora drove his fist into Kagawa's face. The sickening sound of bone cracking filled the air. The first punch sent him reeling, blood spurting from his nose and mouth. Before he could react, the second blow landed, a crushing hit to his abdomen that left him coughing up blood and writhing in pain. Get up!" Sora commanded. Kagawa groaned, barely able to lift his head, his limbs trembling violently. Just kill me already!" But Sora showed no mercy. He raised his foot and stomped down on Kagawa's battered body, a savage, brutal blow. Kagawa lay there, a bloodied, disheveled mess, his eyes swollen shut, limbs mangled, and face unrecognizable. By the time it was over, both his eyes were destroyed, his 4 limbs completely amputated. The once proud bully of his past had been reduced to a blind, helpless husk. Sora turned to the remaining bullies, their faces pale with horror. "Take him to the hospital," he ordered flatly. They quickly scrambled forward, terror gripping their hearts. "Oh, okay." "And don't ever show your faces in front of me again," Sora added, his voice like ice. Without waiting for a response, he crouched and launched himself high into the sky, vanishing into the distance. "The cleanup's done," he murmured to himself, the wind whipping past him as he soared. "Let's move on. We're heading home." City Buffer Zone. At the buffer zone's defensive wall, a group of soldiers stood at their posts, bored and restless. "I'd kill to be on wall watch duty," one of them muttered. "Seriously," another agreed. "At least out here, we don't have to actually fight the monsters." A third soldier scoffed. "Don't be a wimp. If a monster shows up, you better not freak out and fall off the wall." Their idle chatter was interrupted by the firm voice of First Lieutenant Tanji Kagura, the buffer zone's commander. "Stay sharp. There's no telling when one might appear." Private Shoki Matsura, gripping his weapon, sighed. "But this is the buffer zone. Monsters from Area X hardly ever show up here. As long as we stay alert." Before he could finish his sentence, a deafening screech split the air. A monstrous creature, a child of the Kraken shell type, appeared on the horizon, its grotesque form writhing toward them. The soldiers' faces blanched with terror. "Commander! Monster sighting!" one of them shouted. "Don't lose your cool!" Kagura barked. "Stay in formation!" But the monster's aura was suffocating, its level far beyond what their weapons could handle. "Damn it! Its level is so high, our weapons won't work!" a soldier yelled, his voice cracking with fear. "Fire!" the commander ordered. The soldiers unleashed a barrage of gunfire and explosive rounds. "Here it comes!" they shouted as the creature advanced. "Everyone, spread out!" Kagura commanded, urgency in his every word. Explosions rocked the ground, smoke filled the air, and the monstrous child's shriek pierced their ears. Amid the chaos, a soldier named Shun roared, "Damn you, you monstrous octopus! I'm gonna take you down!" They fought with everything they had, desperation fueling their attacks. But no matter how fiercely they fought, their weapons left barely a scratch. And then, suddenly, the monster stopped. Its monstrous tentacled body recoiled, trembling. "What? Is it scared of something?" one of the soldiers gasped. "I don't know what it's afraid of," another said, voice shaking. "But this is our chance. Kill it!" They fired again, but even their combined firepower did nothing. "Impossible!" someone cried out. Panic spread like wildfire. Soldiers fell to their knees in fear, some collapsing entirely as despair gripped them. Then the commander's sharp eyes caught sight of a figure in the distance, a figure descending from the sky like a storm given form. "No way," Kagura muttered. "That's—" The monster's entire body cowered, its grotesque form quivering in absolute terror. "That's him," the commander realized, his heart pounding. "That's the one the monster's scared of. Sora." The battlefield still smoldered in the aftermath of the monster's failed attack. Amid the scattered soldiers, Commander Tanji Kagura stood frozen, his eyes wide as he processed what he had just witnessed. A single man, an unknown figure, had brought down a monster that had survived a full-scale military explosion. And not with a drawn-out fight, but with one effortless, devastating strike. Commander Kagura's mind raced. A monster that survived that blast, taken down in one hit. There aren't many with that kind of power. S-rank destructive force. Who the hell is this guy? I've never seen him before. I need to find out no matter what. Determined, the commander activated a special skill known as Inspect, an ability that allowed the user to view detailed information about a target. The closer in strength the user was to the target, the more precise the information would be. But something unexpected happened. A warning screen appeared before Kagura's eyes. "Show respect to this person." And that was it. Nothing else. The commander gritted his teeth. No stats, no level, no classification, nothing. The data was sealed to him. The information was completely out of his reach, which meant only one thing: the man's power far outstripped his own. Before he could reflect on this unsettling discovery any further, darkness closed in, and he collapsed to the ground unconscious. "Lieutenant!" one of the soldiers shouted in panic. "Lieutenant, what happened? He's down! Somebody call a medic!" As the squad scrambled around their fallen commander, Sora, the man they had all just witnessed performing the impossible, approached calmly, his expression unreadable. He peered at the group of shaken soldiers. "Hey!" Sora called out, his voice steady but carrying an edge of command. One of the soldiers turned towards him quickly. "Yes, sir?" the soldier stammered. "There's something I need to ask you," Sora said, his gaze sharp. "Of course," the soldier replied, trying to hide his fear. "How far is evacuation shelter 6 from here?" Sora asked. The soldier hesitated, then answered, "It's about 50 kilometers to the north, sir. But you'd have to go through Area X to get there." "Area X?" Sora raised a brow, unfamiliar with the term. The soldier swallowed hard. "Yes, it's where they're holding back the monster rush. The military is concentrating the monsters there to minimize damage elsewhere. There's a lot of hunters and soldiers fighting on the front lines to keep them contained." As the soldier spoke, Sora's eyes drifted to the ground where several soldiers were collecting shimmering items that glimmered faintly under the battered sky. Monster drops, tangible loot gained from defeating beasts in the real world. Sora smirked to himself. "Real drops, huh? It really is like a game." Turning his attention back to the soldier, Sora asked, "That monster just now, how strong was it to you guys?" The soldier answered immediately, "It was a level 45. That's quite a tough opponent for us." "So, even something like that already gives you trouble," Sora noted. "How many monsters above level 45 are there in this monster rush you're holding back?" "Probably no more than 100, the soldier admitted. "If there were plenty of monsters like that one, humanity would have gone extinct long ago." Sora nodded. "Got it. Thanks." As he began to turn away, the soldier called after him, desperation in his voice. "Wait, this might be an unreasonable request, but please go to Area X. If a strong hunter like you is there, you could save countless lives." Sora paused for a moment, glancing back over his shoulder. "The shortest route to Shelter 6 is through Area X, right?" "Yes, sir," the soldier confirmed. "All right then," Sora said casually. The soldier's eyes widened. "Then, you'll go?" "Yeah," Sora replied with a shrug. "While I'm passing through Area X, I'll take down any monsters unfortunate enough to cross my path." Back at the Fort Line Rear military camp, the unconscious lieutenant finally stirred. His eyelids fluttered open as one of his men, who had been kneeling at his side, let out a relieved breath. "You're awake, sir," the soldier said gratefully. "How long was I out?" Commander Kagura asked, his voice hoarse. "About 10 minutes, sir," the soldier reported, holding out a vial. "We used some recovery items dropped by the monsters. They worked right away." The commander sat up, rubbing his head. "What about that man? The one who saved us?" He went to the north," the soldier replied. Kagura's eyes narrowed. "North, huh? Hold on. Wait, what did you just say?" "He said he was returning to evacuation shelter 6. "And he's going through Area X?" the commander barked. "Yes, sir. It looked like he didn't care at all." Kagura's pulse quickened. The implications hit him hard. He went without hesitation, without knowing. "Contact the Central Command Center immediately," he ordered. The soldier blinked in confusion. "The Central Command Center, sir?" "There's about 10 minutes left before the scheduled time," Kagura muttered to himself. "I should be able to make it." "But sir, I already sent a message through the emergency radio. Why contact Central directly?" "Because this operation is different from the previous ones," Kagura said grimly. "This information is highly classified. That's why you weren't informed. Area X isn't just the region where we're holding back the monsters, it's a bombing zone." Meanwhile, at the Central Command headquarters, an emergency call came through. "An urgent call has come in," a communications officer informed. "Put them through," commanded Central Commander Renji Kumagaya. "Yes, sir," the officer responded, connecting the line. "This is communication code BW3422, came the voice of Lieutenant Kagura over the line. "Lieutenant Kagura reporting in. I have a critical report. Just now, a mysterious hunter left for the bombing zone. He's unaware of the operation." Commander Renji's voice was icy. "So you're contacting us to report your incompetence?" "No, sir," Kagura replied quickly. "I believe an emergency broadcast to inform him of the incoming bombing is in order. He's strong, incredibly strong, We can't afford to lose a man like him just like this." A tense silence filled the command center as the weight of Kagura's words hung in the air. Inside the central command center, tension lingered in the air as Lieutenant Kagura delivered his urgent report. The large monitor flickered softly in the dimly lit room, and the hum of control panels blended with the anxious shuffling of soldiers at their stations. Commander Renji Kumagaya sat at the head of the command center, his face impassive, though his sharp eyes glinted with scrutiny. "So," Commander Renji began, his voice low and measured, "you say this man is a strong hunter? What's his level?" Lieutenant Kagura stiffened under the scrutiny. I don't know, sir." A heavy silence followed. Commander Renji raised an eyebrow, his expression twisted somewhere between disbelief and annoyance. "Huh. A hunter whose level is unknown wandered into the bombing zone without following procedure, and now you want me to issue an emergency broadcast for him?" he asked, a mocking edge creeping into his tone. Before Kagura could respond, one of the female operators nearby spoke up quietly, a trace of fatalism in her voice. "He'll probably be dead before the message even goes out." At this, Commander Renji let out a dry chuckle. "Cuckoo," he scoffed, leaning back in his chair, his lips curling into a condescending grin. "You may not have a brain, but you certainly have a talent for comedy." His eyes flicked back to Kagura, narrowing coldly. "Seems they haven't been trained well enough to think on their own yet, though it's not really my place to interfere with my subordinates." The grin widened with cruel amusement. "However," he continued in a voice like ice, "if I report to the higher-ups that you have obstructed the operation's progress, you'll be the one held accountable for all consequences." The weight of the words was unmistakable, and the threat hung heavy in the air. Meanwhile, watching the exchange through another channel was Western Commander Mi Tonosaki. Her expression hardened as she observed Commander Renji's arrogant disregard. "Is he really going to drag his own men down when we're facing such a powerful enemy?" she muttered to herself, irritation brimming in her voice. "What an idiot! And yet, here's Kagura, the very man he trained so carefully, risking everything to save a total stranger. Just how powerful is this guy for Kagura to be willing to gamble the entire operation for him?" Her eyes narrowed as she addressed the lieutenant directly through the comms. "Lieutenant Kagura," she called out sharply, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "I trust you have no intention of interfering with our plans, but if you can't give me a convincing reason right now, I will personally see to it that you stand before a military tribunal for insubordination." Kagura felt a chill run down his spine, beads of cold sweat gathering at his temples. This was no idle threat. Western Commander Tonosaki wasn't known for empty words. "Would that be satisfactory for you, Major General Kumagaya?" Commander Tonosaki added, with a sharp glance toward Renji. Renji gave a tisk of annoyance. "Chak! Lieutenant Kagura, well?" he demanded. "Give us a reason we can accept." Taking a steadying breath, Kagura spoke. "Yes, sir. That man, he slew a level 45 baby kraken in a single strike." The revelation caused the entire room to fall into stunned silence. "What?" Commander Tonosaki blurted out. "Then, that would mean he's stronger than an A-rank hunter. Could it be an S-rank hunter from the military?" Commander Renji shook his head immediately. "Impossible. All S-rank personnel have already been deployed on external missions. There's no confirmed signal or report of any of them in this sector." But then, his brow furrowed. "Why don't you know his level? Shouldn't you have been able to see it with your inspect skill?" At that, Kagura felt a flush of embarrassment. He swallowed hard. "About that, sir, when I used my skill on him, I lost consciousness from the information overload. The inspect skill was completely overwhelmed, and I blacked out immediately. The room fell deathly quiet again. The implications were clear to everyone present. That means he's at least level 100, Kagura added softly. Commander Renji exhaled through his nose, tension flickering in his eyes, though his face remained composed. "It's true that strength like this is rare," he conceded, "but that still isn't enough to stop the operation." Eastern Commander Nobuo Yuasa, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, his calm voice resonating through the comms. "I agree," he said firmly. "We cannot abandon our military responsibilities for such uncertain individual reasons. Thousands of troops from 4 different corps are involved in this operation. We've allocated enough forces to fully surround the bombing and buffer zones. The original plan is for any scattered monsters to be handled by the soldiers stationed in the garrison areas once the bombardment concludes." His voice hardened. "If we make an emergency broadcast now, the monsters will react to the sound and rush en masse toward the source. The buffer zones would collapse in an instant. Tens of thousands of soldiers would lose their lives. Saving one unknown man in exchange for those lives, even if he were an S-rank hunter, is a risk we cannot and will not take." Kagura felt his heart sink. He had expected resistance, but hearing it laid out so coldly and logically left him speechless. Commander Mitonosaki sighed. "Then I am rejecting your request," she said decisively. "We can't waste the efforts of so many people for the sake of one man. This decision is final." With that, the connection was terminated, the monitor going dark as the communications cut off. The oppressive quiet that followed was broken only by the low hum of the equipment. Kagura stood there, staring at the empty screen in front of him. His soldiers around him exhaled in resignation. "Lieutenant," one of them said softly, "you've done everything you could." Kagura gave a stiff nod, his voice tight. "Yes, you're right. What matters is the bigger picture." But as those words left his mouth, one of the soldiers, Private First Class Shoki Matsura, reached into the lieutenant's pocket and snatched the keys to a nearby military jeep. "What the hell are you doing? Get back here this instant! The bombing is about to start!" Kagura shouted, alarm flooding his voice. But Matsura didn't stop. He broke into a run, heading straight for the vehicle. "There's still 6 minutes before it starts," the young soldier called out as he climbed into the driver's seat, determination blazing in his eyes. The engine roared to life. "Private First Class Shoki Matsura, do you want to be court-martialed? Get back here now," Kagura bellowed. But Matsura didn't look back. With a defiant slam of the pedal, the jeep sped off toward the north, its tires kicking up dust in its wake. One of the other soldiers looked to Kagura uncertainly. "Lieutenant, should we bring him back?" Kagura sighed, the weight of everything pressing down on his shoulders. "No," he murmured. "Let him go. He's made his decision. I'm sure he knows what he's getting himself into." Inside the speeding jeep, Matsura gripped the steering wheel tightly, his expression resolute. "I have to make it in time," he thought to himself. What none of them knew in that moment, neither the commanders at Central Command nor the soldiers at the front, was that the man Matsura risked everything to save would one day become the last brightest hope for all mankind. The soldier gritted his teeth, frustration and anxiety churning in his chest. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath, his eyes scanning the desolate terrain. "I've lost his trail." He clenched the steering wheel tighter. Where on earth did he go? This path he was speeding down was supposed to be the fastest route through this sector. If even here he couldn't catch sight of the man, did that mean the stranger was moving faster than his military vehicle itself? It was unthinkable, yet the evidence pointed to it. Up ahead loomed Area X, a no-man's land known to be especially treacherous. The soldier hesitated for a brief moment. "If I blast the speaker at full volume, there's a chance he'll hear me. But doing that, it'll alert the monsters too." He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. There was no time for fear. "Doesn't matter," he said to himself, flicking the switch on the dashboard. The speakers crackled to life. He raised the microphone to his lips, his voice cracking with desperation and guilt. "I'm a disgrace to the army," he began, his words carrying far and wide through the speaker system. "Hey, I'm the soldier you helped earlier. This area is about to be bombed. Evacuate immediately, I repeat. Evacuate immediately." His words echoed eerily through the barren, smoke-laden air. Far away, Sora paused, his sharp senses picking up the faint, distorted voice. Bombed, he thought with a start. That explained why no hunters were to be seen anywhere nearby, and why the air carried an oppressive, deadly tension. The monsters scattered through the area weren't much of a problem for him, but the blast heat was another story. "I don't know if I can survive that. Best avoid pointless risks." Yet his gaze hardened. That soldier had risked his life to travel all this way, just to deliver a warning meant for him. I can't let him die here after that. Meanwhile, the soldier sat tensely inside his vehicle, glancing nervously at the dark silhouette starting to emerge in the distance. "Did I reach him?" he whispered, hope flickering within him. However, it wasn't long before he realized the terrible consequence of his broadcast. The monsters were converging on his position. "Damn it, I really did attract them." He was about to start the vehicle, his fingers hovering over the ignition switch, when a thought struck him like a blow to the chest. Sora is still out there. He couldn't just leave now. Before he could act, a figure appeared. It was Sora, moving with impossible speed and precision. The soldier's face lit up with relief. "Thank goodness you're alive," he blurted out. Sora didn't waste time. "What do you mean this area is about to be bombed?" he demanded. But there was no time left to explain. The countdown had reached its end. The first of the explosions erupted in a blinding flash of light and a thunderous roar. The very earth trembled under the assault as wave after wave of bombs fell, the car becoming surrounded by ferocious blasts. Smoke and searing heat blanketed everything as shockwaves tore through the area. Far away, in the military command center, a young girl seated at a console turned to Major General Kumagaya. "Major General, the bombing's complete," she reported. Commander Renji's expression was cold and focused. "Use the drones to assess how many monsters we've taken down and where the survivors are headed," he ordered. He glanced at the communications officer. "Phones aren't detecting any signs of life. What's going on out there?" But what they saw on the drone feed made their blood run cold. "The monsters. They're still in the bombing zone," the girl said, her voice trembling. "And the ones at the center of the bombing, they're completely unscathed." Commander Renji's eyes narrowed. "That can't be." Commander Mii Tonosaki leaned in sharply. "What about the drone feed?" "Wait, is that a shield?" the girl gasped. "Did the monsters make it?" Her hands hovered over the console controls as the images flickered. "Wait, hold on," she added, her eyes wide. "Is that a person?" The screen flickered once more before cutting to static. "The drone's been attacked by a monster," she choked out. "We've lost all communication with it." Commander Mii Tonosaki swore softly under her breath. "They said this wave of attacks would be different, but what was that back there?" "They know we're scouting with drones," Eastern Commander Nobuo Yuasa said grimly, the weight of the situation sinking in. Without a moment's hesitation, Commander Mii Tonosaki barked, "Evacuate every soldier from the garrison area." "Full retreat," another commander shouted. "Hold the walls." But then the girl spoke again, horror evident in her tone. They're heading for the walls." "Then where are they going?" Tonosaki demanded. "To Area BZZ," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Commander Mii Tonosaki's face hardened. "But that's where the mysterious hunter went. Send all our remaining drones to BZZ. I want eyes on that place immediately. We need to find out what stopped the monster's advance." Back in the devastation, the soldier inside the car gasped as the roar of the explosions finally faded. "The bombing stopped," he whispered in disbelief. "I'm alive. Haha, I'm alive." But Sora's sharp voice cut through his euphoria like a blade. "It's too early to celebrate. If you're alive, then so are the monsters." His tone was grim. "And they're headed this way. Get down." A dull mechanical buzz drew both their attention upwards. "Is that an army drone?" the soldier stammered, watching as a monstrous form struck it from the sky. Did the monsters attack the drone?" He shook his head in shock. "This has never happened before." Sora's gaze was fixed ahead. "Save your astonishment for later," he snapped. "We're making a run for it." Without another word, the two bolted, racing against death itself as the nightmare unfolded around them. The soldier's voice trembled as he assessed the terrifying reality before him. "These guys, they're the highest level group in this rush," he muttered, disbelief and fear heavy in his tone. "Their leader, he's level 90. His eyes darted over the monstrous forms advancing relentlessly, completely untouched by the earlier bombing. "Not a single scratch from that blast?" A chill ran down his spine as dread settled in. "It's over for us. We're going to die here." Beside him, Sora remained calm but determined, his gaze steady and unyielding. "We're both unharmed," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "If we can't kill them with a bombing," he clenched his fists, muscles tensing with resolve, "then we'll just have to beat them to death." Turning to the soldier, he ordered, "You go hide in the jeep. Stay out of the fight." Suddenly, an uneasy feeling crept over Sora. I couldn't sense his presence. Something was off. Then, a cruel, mocking voice pierced the tension. "I've finally found you." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. From the shadows stepped a formidable figure, the bully. His eyes burned with hatred as he snarled, "Seed of the Abyss!" His voice dripped with venom. "You thief! Give me back what's mine!" Sora narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. The bully's grin twisted into a sinister sneer. "For the crime of taking another's power, you must pay with your life." Sora's expression hardened. "If that's all you've got, then you won't be able to kill me." The bully's eyes flicked upward, and he muttered bitterly, "Is Odin's raven watching me?" "No, it's an imitation, made by the humans." His disdain for the surveillance was clear. Sora shot back defiantly, "Hey, if you really want to kill me, come at me more seriously." But before Sora could react, the bully vanished into thin air. He disappeared. Enraged, the bully spat venomous words into the cold air. "How disgusting it is to be watched by these vile humans," his voice echoed with contempt. "These low-level creations make me sick. Take out all the observers." The soldier's heart pounded wildly as he shouted in frustration, "Damn! He destroyed my drone!" Despite the setback, he clung to a thread of hope. "But I somehow managed to complete my mission." He looked at the broken pieces of his drone with a mix of relief and anxiety. The reason the monsters changed course is because of this guy. He's the hunter who faced the rush alone. His voice rose in urgency. "I need to inform the commander about him." But before he could act further, a shout ripped through the air. "I've been found! Ooh-ah!" The bully's command rang out like a death knell, cold and commanding. "Kill all of them, my servants!" Despite the terror, the soldier's resolve only grew stronger. "If there is a strong hunter like you," he called out desperately, "I'm sure people could be saved." He raised his voice again, hoping Sora could hear him through the chaos. "Hey, I'm the soldier you helped earlier. This area is about to be bombed." But even as he shouted, panic seized him. "Damn it! Something's jammed!" The communication was breaking down under the relentless assault. Meanwhile, Sora's mind raced. To hunt an enemy, you have to start with their leader. His voice was steady but urgent. "If you want to save as many people as possible, you have to kill your enemies as quickly as possible." He observed the monstrous forms before him, noting the terrifying fusion that had taken place. By fusing with that man, that large monster's attack has increased. His eyes narrowed in fierce determination. "You're so persistent." Then something caught his eye, a chilling resemblance that made his heart skip a beat. "Huh? This guy looks just like me." Sora felt a surge of energy, powerful and overwhelming. Such a powerful energy surge. His gaze locked on the sword the creature wielded, a weapon radiating ominous power. "That sword is bad news." The bully's voice thundered across the battlefield, venom and finality in every word. "I will kill you. Seed of the Abyss. That is your destiny." Sora's mind reeled as the bully launched a deadly attack. "Shit! That was nullified too?" He stumbled back, confusion swirling in his thoughts. But why? Was it just my imagination? His instinct screamed at him as he felt the energy coursing through the enemy. This energy surge, it's almost exactly like the power of the Abyss. The realization sent a shiver down his spine. The battlefield crackled with tension, the air thick with the promise of an epic confrontation, one that would determine the fate of them all. The bully sneered down at Sora with disdain, his voice dripping with contempt. "Is stealing somebody else's weapon all you're capable of?" he taunted, eyes gleaming cruelly. Sora's gaze flickered to the place where the weapon had vanished, a faint shimmer marking its disappearance. "It disappeared," he thought, acknowledging the overwhelming force at play. "This is the power of the Abyss," he muttered under his breath. "Looks like there are still a lot of uses for it that I haven't discovered yet." A spark of determination ignited within him despite the uncertainty. "This fight's going to drag on, isn't it?" he mused quietly, eyes narrowing as he quickly reassessed the situation. But first things first, the soldier's safety was paramount. Turning to him, Sora asked, "You okay with heights?" The soldier blinked in surprise. "Huh? Oh, yes." But his expression shifted quickly as realization dawned on him. "Huh?" Suddenly, the ground beneath them disappeared. They were airborne. "We're flying," Sora announced calmly, steadying himself mid-air as they moved swiftly through the sky. The bully's voice erupted with fury and warning. "You fool! Don't take the power of the abyss lightly. The strong don't exist to protect the weak. They exist to become the strongest. His voice grew colder, sharper. Die alongside that weak human. Despite the bully's threat, Sora remained unfazed. It's fast, he acknowledged, eyes darting ahead as they tried to evade their pursuer. Even if I run, it'll catch up to us. His jaw tightened. In that case, I'll just crush it. He brought his power to bear against the incoming threat, hoping to halt its approach. The impact, however, was non-existent. Did it work? No, there's no impact at all. Sora's eyes widened in realization. So that's the real body. Their enemy wasn't an illusion or a projection. It was tangible and nearly untouchable. Suddenly, the soldier's panic pierced the tense air. Ooh-wah! Crap! Sora's voice was sharp, commanding. Get out of the car! The soldier hesitated, trembling. Don't come any closer! The bully's sinister laughter filled the air, dark and mocking. Be not afraid, you pitiful lamb. I'll carry you back home. He sneered as he lunged toward the soldier. The soldier screamed, Gwa! Sora's frustration boiled over. Damn it! The bully circled them with cruel amusement. Are you angry? Don't get so worked up. His grin twisted malevolently. Look, he's not dead yet, see? He's even smiling right at you. His voice took on a cruel cadence. Watching everyone you care about die before your eyes. What a beautiful fate that is, seed of the abyss. Sora's eyes narrowed, voice sharp and cold. Do you get off on trampling other people's dignity too? The bully's laughter was chilling, a low, harsh chuckle. Coo. There's no need to state the obvious. He raised his hand, dark energy swirling around him. Obsidian storm! Sora braced himself against the attack, voice steady despite the danger. Is that so? He glared at the bully. Scum like you make me sick. I'm sorry. You got dragged into this. His tone softened just slightly, a mix of pity and resolve. The bully snarled, refusing to relent. It's useless. A rookie who can't even handle the power of the abyss can't hope to defeat me, Sora interrupted sharply, voice filled with fierce confidence. You're no match. The bully staggered back, disbelief flashing across his face. Impossible. You actually hurt me? Sora smiled grimly. People grow, you idiot. The bully's expression twisted into panic. This is bad. Damn it. Just by seeing my move, you've learned to control the power of the abyss? His eyes darted wildly. Where did you go? You're tougher than I thought. Sora's voice echoed with cold determination. You might escape from me, but let's see you escape this. The tension between them crackled with barely contained fury, the battlefield set for a fight that would test every ounce of their strength and will. Sora's eyes flashed with fierce determination as he focused intently on his opponent's movements. That technique again, he exclaimed, recognizing the familiar and dangerous maneuver. His mind quickly calculated his next move. Then I'll aim for the real body's core. With a burst of energy, he lunged forward, shouting, Get crushed! The bully's expression twisted in disbelief. No way, he muttered, barely able to react fast enough. Sora pressed his advantage without hesitation. You're next! His voice was sharp, full of confidence and resolve as he closed in. But the bully refused to be defeated so easily. Damn it, I'll remember this, he growled through clenched teeth. Summoning dark energy around him, he invoked a powerful technique. Shadow Unity. Sora narrowed his eyes, a trace of surprise flickering across his face. He used a technique like that just to escape, he thought, watching the shadows coalesce and envelop his foe. Glancing down at his torn clothes, Sora grimaced. Darn, my clothes are ruined. But relief softened his expression as his hand brushed the photo of his mom and dad tucked safely inside his pocket. I'm glad my mom and dad's picture is intact. Despite the setback, Sora's mind raced. This guy probably has family waiting for him too, he reasoned. No one wants to be lost to this madness alone. I'll take you back with me, he vowed quietly, steeling himself for the next confrontation. There was no way this was the end of the battle with that shadow-using opponent. The bully had absorbed so many shadows, Sora knew he could attack at any moment. His heart pounded as he prepared for what was to come. The bully's voice cut through the tension like a knife, dripping with cruel satisfaction. Watching everyone you care about die before your eyes, he taunted, as if it was a punishment and a pleasure all in one. Just you wait, Sora hissed, his voice low but fierce, promising retribution. The bully's cruel grin widened. "What a beautiful fate this is, seed of the abyss," he sneered, savoring his words. Sora's thoughts snapped back to the immediate danger. "I can't let him get to the evacuation shelter first." Panic and determination surged through him. "I have to get there as soon as possible." Meanwhile, back at the command center, the atmosphere was tense. The director barked out orders with steely authority. "Drone squad, investigate the area carefully. Make sure you don't even miss a single mouse. All other units, remain on high alert." A soldier hurried forward, urgency clear in his voice. "Director, the monsters are already—" The director cut him off sharply. "I know. They've all been defeated." Her tone was grim but composed. "Check the drone data and report any and all information immediately." "Yes, ma'am," the soldier replied, snapping to attention and rushing to access the drone feed. The director leaned over the monitor, eyes scanning the incoming footage. There are clear signs of a battle. The strong hunter Lieutenant Kajura mentioned survived not only the bombing, but also wiped out the entire monster rush. Her voice carried disbelief mixed with cautious hope. A soldier called out urgently, "Director!" The director's eyes remained fixed on the screen as the soldier continued. "The SD card from this drone is still in good condition. I will visualize the data now." As the images flickered into view, the director studied them intently. "Let's take a look." Private First Class Matsura charged into the bombing zone, and the person next to him must be the strong hunter. The soldier's voice trembled slightly. "This is—" Suddenly another soldier called out from nearby. "Hey! What did you find?" Nothing," came the quick reply. "Don't you lie to me!" the first soldier growled, suspicion sharpening his tone. "You—" The accusation hung heavy in the air. The tension thickened as one soldier held up an object. "Was this dropped by the rush boss? They look like rare items." His voice lowered with both awe and greed. "Taking items obtained by the unit for yourself is a crime. You know what you have to do, don't you?" Another soldier's eyes gleamed greedily. "How are we supposed to divide it?" "Hey, relax," said a voice calm but edged with resolve. "The only thing I want is this thing." "No way!" a different voice exclaimed in disbelief. "A box like this is bound to have a legendary item." "Don't get the wrong idea," the calm voice snapped. "You don't have a choice, kid." His lips curved into a sly grin. "Hehehe, I finally obtained a golem relic." The atmosphere was heavy with tension, betrayal, and the quiet thrill of rare spoils. In the midst of chaos, greed and survival clashed as the soldiers wrestled not only with monsters but also with each other. Meanwhile, Sora's battle with the bully was far from over, and the fate of the evacuation shelter, and perhaps more, hung precariously in the balance. After a long and exhausting journey, Sora finally arrived at the evacuation shelter, shelter number 6. He took a moment to catch his breath and survey the surroundings. "I'm finally here," he murmured quietly to himself. Looking around carefully, he noticed something strange. The shelter appeared untouched. "Looks like they haven't been attacked yet." Relief washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by a nagging concern. "I don't feel his presence anywhere near. Actually, I don't feel the presence of anyone strong at all." A cold unease settled in his chest. If no strong person stepped up to protect this place, he knew it was only a matter of time before it was destroyed. The question that gnawed at him was simple but troubling. Is he blind? Was the enemy failing to notice this safe haven? Before he could ponder further, a calm but somewhat amused voice interrupted his thoughts. "Such dense blood you have. You must have come from outside, yes?" Startled, Sora turned to see a figure before him. "Yeah, that's right," he replied cautiously, trying to gauge the stranger's intentions. The man chuckled softly, the sound light, but filled with an undercurrent of curiosity. "Ha ha ha, I see. That's a relief then." He spoke with a tone that was neither threatening nor overly friendly. "Rest assured, for I mean no ill will. I only wish to buy information about the outside world from your excellency. It'd mean a lot to me if you possess the information I desire." Sora blinked, eyeing the man suspiciously. "Is this the currency they use around here? If it's something I know, sure," he said, half joking but keeping his guard up. The man smiled, clearly pleased. "That's good to hear." Sora wasn't quite ready to let his guard down, however. But before that, I'd like to ask something. A monk calling me Your Excellency? You must be a fake, he said, his tone skeptical. The man laughed heartily, almost playfully. Ha 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 ha. You've seen right through me. This outfit is just a hobby of mine, he admitted with a shrug. And so does hiding your eyes, Sora pressed, noticing the man's eyes were obscured. The man hesitated, chuckling nervously. Well, what a troublesome guy, Sora muttered under his breath. The man sighed. I recently contracted an eye disease. But Sora's instincts warned him otherwise. Even with the man's eyes covered, he could sense a terrifying light lurking beneath. This was no ordinary ailment. The man must have his own reasons for concealing his power. Looks like there's a wolf in sheep's clothing hiding in this shelter, Sora thought warily. So? Sora asked, turning back to the topic at hand. What would you like to know? The man's expression grew serious. Oh, so it's finally my turn to ask. He leaned in slightly. I'd like to know what's happening outside. They've gathered armed soldiers at the walls. They must be gearing up for battle. His voice dropped to a whisper. And I'm sure the general public didn't notice this, but I heard explosions outside. Could you please tell me what's going on out there? Sora rubbed the back of his neck, honestly unsure himself. Honestly, I'm not totally sure either. I was on an errand outside when I heard a blast from the southwest. He chuckled awkwardly. I was so freaked out, I dropped my letter and had to use my shirt as a makeshift map. Ha 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 ha. The man blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Is that so? So you're also hiding your power? He nodded appreciatively. Southwest, you say? Thank you very much. You've been a huge help. Sora smirked to himself, thinking, don't mention it. But inside, his mind was racing. He's heading in such vague directions by himself? How many fighters of his caliber are out there? He felt conflicted. He couldn't exactly make a scene, and yet here he was, wandering freely despite looking suspicious. Maybe humanity's guard is down because we're all facing the same enemy. The man suddenly smiled and said, Please come again. Sora looked down at the new clothes he had bought with the money the monk gave him. Feeling a slight boost of confidence, he thought, now then, it's time to find my parents. He decided to start the old-fashioned way. Excuse me, do you recognize this couple in the photo? He held out the picture carefully. A lady looked at it and stammered, I don't know them. Sora frowned in confusion. Huh. The woman's reaction was as if he had shown her a ghost. Is everyone here on edge? Suddenly, a rough voice interrupted. The hell are you looking at? Sora turned to see a gruff man glaring at him. Guess I'll have to ask him, Sora thought. Hey, you! The man called out. What? Sora replied cautiously. You don't look like you're from around here, the man said suspiciously. You're hitting on people with a picture in the middle of the night? Which era do you think this is? Sora held up the photo again. Do you know these two? The man sneered. Now you're hitting on everyone you see? Hey, why do you have a photo of them? I'm asking if you know who these people are, Sora pressed. The man's expression hardened. What's your deal with them? Sora took a deep breath and said quietly, I'm their son. The man's face twisted in disbelief. You're that kid? Are you trying to make fun of me? Who? Sora's voice remained calm but firm. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that? The man blinked, suddenly deflating. Oh, so it was you. Wow. Long time no see? His tone shifted to a friendlier one. Just go straight down this road, and you'll find their home. Thanks, Sora said sincerely. The man waved him off, but his eyes darted nervously. Take care. This is bad. I need to gather everyone. Sora stood there for a moment, reflecting. A thug knows where my folks live. Come to think of it, Dad was kind to anyone he met. Mom was the same. Nice people like them just get taken advantage of in this world. But Sora smiled softly, feeling a surge of hope. But it's okay. I'm here now. He walked forward, arriving at what looked like a humble home. This must be the place. His heart raced as he thought, those two live here? With so many gone, there were plenty of empty houses nearby. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out, Done with work for today? Sora's heart leapt. That's Dad's voice. As he approached, the door opened and a man greeted him warmly. "Welcome home!" Sora took a hesitant step forward, and the man's expression shifted in confusion. "Huh? Who are you?" "It's me," Sora said softly. The man echoed, blinking. Sora smiled faintly. "It's me, Sora." The man's eyes widened in recognition. "Huh?" The atmosphere in the room was heavy with anticipation and unspoken tension as Sora's mother finally broke the silence. "Sorry to keep you waiting," she said gently, her voice laced with a mix of concern and a mother's quiet strength. She glanced meaningfully at Sora and his father, then added, "Have you two still not exchanged a word with each other?" Sora's father let out a weary sigh, the weight of the situation clearly pressing down on him. "Yeah," he said, his tone a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "I can hardly believe it myself. He's a completely different person from the Sora we used to know." He looked toward his son, his eyes searching for the boy he once knew, but the gap between them seemed wider than ever. Then, with a firmer voice, he added, "At a time like this, we need those." Sora furrowed his brow, confused by his father's statement. "And what is those?" he asked cautiously. His father's expression hardened with resolve. "Why, an exchange of secrets between a father and his son, of course," he declared. "I don't want to expose myself to my wife," he admitted with a hint of reluctance. "But if you can't give me answers, you won't be walking away unscathed. If you say anything even slightly suspicious, I want you dealt with." Sora's eyes narrowed, realizing the stakes were higher than ever. At that moment, a nearby figure stepped forward, a stern-looking man who nodded briskly. "Roger," he responded, confirming he was ready to enforce the father's orders. Sora looked at this man, a henchman of sorts, and understood that the father's caution was justified. "A henchman? I see he's still wary," Sora mused silently. The father gave a small, reassuring smile. "With security this tight, I can finally relax," he said. Then turning to Sora, he asked, "So, are you up for it?" Sora smirked, the old fire flickering in his eyes. "Take care, henchman," he warned, "because you're about to hear things you shouldn't." Sora began to recount details only the family could know. "Every weekend," he said, his tone laced with mockery, "you'd take cooking classes at the Homemakers Support Group." His father's eyes widened in shock. "Why does he know that?" he whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. The henchman, caught off guard, stammered, The Homemakers Support Group?" Sora pressed on, relentless. "On top of that, you'd sneak off every weekend to take ballet classes." The henchman's jaw dropped in surprise. "Ballet?" he exclaimed. The father coughed to cover his embarrassment. "Ahem. That may be true," he admitted, "but you don't have to be my son to figure that out." Sora wasn't finished. "Then how about I tell you something about our family?" he challenged. The father's expression hardened into one of defiance. "Oh yeah? You really know?" "Of course," Sora said, his voice cold and unwavering. "Don't say I didn't warn you." The father dared him. Go ahead." Sora's eyes gleamed as he delivered his revelation. "That Japanese sword is just a replica." The henchman gasped. "A replica?" The father's face twisted in disbelief. Don't be ridiculous. Do you have proof?" Sora smirked. "Proof?" "The hilt has my brother's bite marks on it." The father blinked in shock. "Huh?" The henchman suddenly recalled the tale, eyes wide. "What? Were they not from when the family head had his hands bound, so he bit down on that blade and killed 38 people?" he asked incredulously. "Humph! He talks big, but I'm sure his goal is to catch the family head off guard and finish him off." Sora's grin widened as he continued. "It extends, and it retracts too, huh?" The father's voice softened with relief and disbelief. "You idiot! We thought you were dead. It's really you, Sora. Our Sora is home. If only you knew what we've been through." Sora's eyes filled with emotion as he replied quietly, "Dad." The father's voice cracked with emotion. "We scoured every landmark for intel on you, and before I knew it, I had ended up as a boss. And now that very boss is bawling his eyes out. How pathetic. Can you bring the person above us down?" The henchman seemed shaken by the weight of the conversation. "The family head has lived his whole life under a rain of blood. I've never witnessed anything like this. Shoot! I saw the family head, someone who cherishes honor above all in such a state. I need to get out of here. Please don't kill me. Sora raised his hand, calling for calm. Please wait. Dad says he wants to talk. The father turned sharply toward the henchman. Ochiai, out of all my guards, you have the loosest tongue, Sora added sternly. If this gets out... Both father and son spoke in unison, their voices hard and resolute. It's on you. The henchman dropped his head in submission. I promise I won't say a word. There's no doubt about it. They're definitely father and son. The mother intervened with a warning tone. Now, don't threaten him. Ma'am, the henchman stammered. The mother's eyes narrowed as she spoke firmly. But absolutely not a word. Yes, the henchman started, then quickly shut his mouth. The father chuckled quietly. I'm so glad he didn't talk about me farting or snoring while I'm sleeping. The mother shot him a sharp look. And yet you brought it up yourself. Sora sat back, a deep sigh escaping him as he reflected on the long road he had traveled. It's like I just crawled out of the abyss again. I'm really home. Suddenly, a voice interrupted from outside the room. Boss, there's a white-haired kid looking for you. To be continued. We'll cover the next story very soon. Stay tuned. If you like the story, let me know in the comments.